I was born and raised by a Marine. He never told me to cut my hair or clean my room, but he rode me hard and he made me strong. He made me see what I could become. I am me, my father's son.
Well, before playing some VR football, I need to tell you this story. Yeah, that stuff there. So, where to begin? First, I need to set this thing up for you. So, my dad had a small construction company, but in the wintertime, he couldn't work that company. So he had a job where he was a welder and a fabricator for this one company. And what that meant is that he worked all day and he would come home around 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, what our plan was is to come home from school, grab your meal, and get out of there. Sitting at the supper table with my father was sometimes a tough thing to do, because what he would do is he'd question you things. What's the distance of the sun to the earth? How much does water weigh? How many gallons of water can you fit in a cubic foot? All these questions, which was funny because later in my life, when I used to run construction jobs, I had an engineer one time tell me, "How do you know all these formulas?" It was drilled into me when I was a kid. But sometimes those conversations with my father, the Marine, would get carried away. And this one night, I was about 10 years old, it got carried away. So I just decided that I've had enough. At 10 years old, I said, I've had enough of this crap. So I decided to run away. And I actually informed him that I'm leaving. And he was happy with that. In fact, he said, okay, make sure you have a thermos of water and you got your coat, you got your boots on because it's cold. And it was the winter time and it was snowing. So I had all my gear, I had all my stuff. Hey, I'm on my own now. 10 years old, I'm on my own. And my plan was to go seek refuge at some of my neighbors. Well, my dad was on to me. And I didn't know it at the time, but I did notice that later on, someone told me that he followed me everywhere. Because every house I went to, now we lived in the country, so walking to the neighbors just wasn't going across the street. It was a little bit of a walk. And I walked to neighbors, and every neighbor I had, every person I knew said, no, your dad said you ran away, you're on your own, so we can't let you in. So I walked around, and now it's getting dark. It's probably about 9 o'clock at night. It's starting to get dark. It's snowing pretty good. And I said, this is it. So around our house where we lived, there were these real tall pine trees. And there was a part underneath them where I could hide. So what I did is I climbed underneath this pine tree, and I'm sitting under there, and the snow's falling all around me. It's getting cold. My feet are getting cold. My hands are getting cold. And in my mind, as weird as it sounds, and actually devious at that point, I thought, I hope I die and that old man Marine goes to jail for child abuse. This is terrible. I hope I die. And I sat under that tree, and it was getting colder and colder. And here comes the Marine. Here comes my father. Comes around, and I swear to you, he had a cup of coffee in his hand, but I think that was a prop, because I didn't see him once drink from it, but he just wanted that steam to be boiling off that cup. And he came around and he saw me under that tree, and he looked down at me, and he said, son, there are things in this world you're going to have to do that you don't want to do. But you do those things so that you can do the things you want to do. Now, you can come in this house, get in a nice warm bed, your mother's got a nice warm meal for you, and we'll talk about this later. Or you can sit out here and freeze to death, and that's just one less mouth I have to feed. And I just couldn't get over what he just told me. But I was getting cold, and of course, I had to follow him into the house, and he helped me with my coat, and I went in, and we talked about it later, a few days later. But that story has stuck with me my whole life. As a lot of you have known, I've been chasing this music dream since I was 15 years old. And I've had good times and bad times. There are things you do. And I've got two great studios. But a lot of that equipment came from me working all those years in construction. From starting out in the ditch to running heavy equipment to running jobs to getting my contractor's license. All these things I did. Now, granted, some of the times in construction were kind of fun. The utility industry was like being a first responder. When electric is out, when water is out, when communications are out, they call us. And it was kind of exciting, but it still wasn't my passion. My passion was music. I wanted to play music. I wanted to create music. But that dream came to life. I have two studios and I'm doing it. But how did I get all the material, all the equipment, all the experiences I could do? And that came from all the years of work in construction. So, to sum it all up, this is the lesson in life. Set your goals, figure out what you're going to do. And remember, there are going to be things in your life that you're going to do that you're not going to want to do, but that'll get you closer to doing the things you want to do. Thanks, Dad.